everyone. My name is Joanne Shango. I am the head of school and founder of the Montessori School Rochester. I'm also one of the founders of the Global Montessori Network. I've been working in Montessori education for the past 28 years in different capacities, from guide in the preschool kindergarten classroom to so many different things. I've worked as a consultant, and I have offered support in development of Montessori schools around the state, around the country. I also work in the capacity of providing speaking engagements to different schools and different conferences. I'm also a mom, and I have spent the past 14 years raising my 3 children. My daughter is 14 and my boys are 12 and 9 respectively. They are growing and their needs are constantly changing, particularly in this time of crisis. So we've had a couple of heavy conversations talking about emotions over the past 2 sessions, and I will touch on that, I think, every day. Emotions, the emotional growth and stability of our young children, as well as ourselves, is really important, particularly in times of crisis. So I hope those conversations aided you in being able to navigate some of the minefields that we are experiencing on a daily basis, from a very happy child to a child that in a blink of an eye becomes frustrated or angry in a way that they didn't before. Everything seems bigger right now. That being said, we also look for tools. What are the actual tools? What are things that we can do to continue to engage our children and to protect them from some of the extreme emotional onslaughts that they might be experiencing? And so the tools that I always look for are tools that we also use in the Montessori classroom. And I'm not talking about the Montessori materials. Some of you are blessed to have them in your homes, or different variations or versions that resemble Montessori materials. If you're one of our families, you have a lot of 2-dimensional PDF type versions of some of our materials so that your kids can continue working through our guided presentations during the live Zoom programs that we have. That being said, we don't all have those. And it's not, when you really think of Montessori and the Montessori approach to guiding children, the materials are a tool that we use, but they're only one tool. And we always say it is first the preparation of the adult. And the adult prepares herself in her understanding of the children and their needs, in creating goals, and then through observation or understanding of our children's interests and abilities, we then prepare the environment and present different activities and materials for the children. That can be done without a single Montessori material. Now, don't get me wrong. The Montessori materials are extraordinary. They were designed by a scientist. Maria Montessori was an expert in her field as a physician and as a scientist, and what she cultivated during her lifetime and her dedication to working with children and understanding them and creating her method was extraordinary. The materials are scientific, they interrelate to each other. I love them. They are amazing and can be used in so many different ways, and if you have them, allow your children to explore and use with them appropriately. But we don't all have them. Some of the best Montessorians in the world I have seen didn't have the luxury of all of those Montessori materials, and yet the environments that they created, whether it was in their homes or in their schools, were so authentically child-centered on their needs and the results of the growth and development of the children, either in, well, always in their care, whether it was in their school or in their homes, is extraordinary. That could be trying to replicate Montessori materials, but what's really happening is the use of relating to children as respectful and honorable little humans that have a potential and a capacity for learning and discovery and problem solvings that will affect and change our world in their growing future for the better. So how do we do that, right? We're at home. We don't have everything that we need. We are feeling overwhelmed as parents, and our children are disengaging and disconnecting and experiencing more and more emotional resistance to anything that we might offer them. They're done. That's how they feel. They're done. They want things back to normal. So what is it we can do? What are real and active tools? Well, at the Montessori School Rochester this year, we were blessed with welcoming Miss Maddie, our elementary guide, and we worked together as we changed and adapted our elementary program. We definitely brought our elementary program back to a more authentic and natural program, where we saw children that were struggling in years past thrive in a way that we'd never seen in the few years with the previous program that we were offering. These few children, watching them and seeing how, with the adaptations we made with Miss Maddie and with myself as the administrator, were extraordinary. And that the additions that we added, not only moving to a more authentic approach and using the materials in the classroom more regularly and as the foundation for the children's learning and their discovery, promoting it in a more independent way, that did wonders. But what we also added, which is very natural to Montessori, is the concept of project-based learning. Now, project-based learning is a different methodology. It's separate from Montessori, but they not only work in parallel for the same goals, but they actually work in tandem. And when we included project-based learning into the Montessori classroom, into our now authentic Montessori classroom, we saw something even more transformational occur. The connection not just to their own learning and to their own discoveries, but the building of the sense of community and their reliance and respect for each other and for their different thoughts, because they do have different thoughts. You can have 3 children in your home and they each have different thoughts and they each have different goals and different opinions. And it doesn't mean that you can't be friends with different thoughts and different opinions, right? And so watching that unfold, and instead of there being conflict, watching a celebration of each other's ideas through the concept of project-based learning really took the depth of community relationships to a higher level, but it also took their learning and their investment into their explorations deeper. And it began to mean something for them. So for those of you that don't know, what is project-based learning and how can we do it at home? Now, project-based learning is the idea of a project that has a driving question. What are the children going to do with a problem? Why is that problem related to them? And what can they do to solve it, and how will they do it, and when? It becomes a real application of different studies, of different things that they're doing and working on. And it does create community. It creates a feeling of working together and a respect for the different skills and abilities of the different children. So how do we relate that at home right now for yourselves and for your family community? How do you give project-based ideas and activities to your children, whether they're 3 in preschool, and project-based learning does apply in preschool, as well as to your elementary or adolescent age child? There's a lot of suggestions out there. I was looking up lists of activities to do because I wanted to give you guys tools, and when I looked at them, I thought, how is it that these are expanded when we use the idea of project-based learning? You can bake with your child every day, right? How does it become their project? how does it relate to them? Why are they baking? What are they going to do with the baked goods? Why is it relevant to their lives, right? And how is it important? What are the concepts that they are interested in, and what do they do with it? So is baking an activity that you do once in a while, or are we cultivating a lifestyle of baking for healthy living choices? Fresh foods instead of processed foods? Are we baking to leave a surprise gift for neighbors, right? It's this idea of baking then becomes something, a long-term project that not only has a end result, you've baked the muffins, but it has a purpose for the children. And what happens when you connect the child to the process and the why in the conversations that we're doing, in allowing them to talk about what it is they want to do with it, or what they would do with it, or how they would make an effort, baking then is no longer something you might remember to pull out every once in a while because your children are bored or you're hungry, but it becomes something that they choose to do. Now, I have elementary and adolescent age children. The baking that we started as one-off projects periodically became a lifestyle for them. And not only a lifestyle, but over the ensuing 10 weeks, my children pull out baking for a variety of reasons. They have recognized what I have always felt, which is cooking and baking for me is a time of relaxation and joy. I enjoy doing the cooking. I relax during that time. I don't think about my problems while I'm cooking. I am creating and making something that not only meets my fundamental need of being hungry, it meets a need for me to take care of my family. Well, my children started to do that. And every once in a while, they're pulling out baking. And I'll say, oh, hey, what made you bake today? And they say, well, my sister wasn't feeling so happy, so I know she likes brownies, so I'm going to bake her some brownies. And now it became a long-term project that he uses in order to care for others. And that's when it goes from a one-off 30-minute thing that you did into something that begins to shape them and their impact on the world. And that's the idea that we're always seeking. So one of the suggestions outside of things like baking that is out there, and there's so many amazing resources right now on virtual field trips, whether it's a virtual field trip to the zoo. The Detroit Zoo has some great links on their website for virtual field trips and virtual experiences, or it might be virtual experiences to virtual field trips to our national parks. There are museums and aquariums all over the world right now that are letting us inside, even though we are across the globe or across the state or across the country. We're being offered a window into so many cultural experiences that we may never have had the opportunity to experience. Now, they can be a one-off thing, but if you think about project-based learning, you want to invest with the child. Why are we going to visit this national park? Making that connection with your child. Why? Not your reason why, but their reason why. So the driving question you want to ask is, what interests them? What can we do with the information we receive about this national park? Is there something else we're going to do with it, or is it just going to be a 20-minute virtual field trip? And that's going to fill 20 minutes of your time and their time, or it could fill days and weeks. And the idea of it filling days and weeks is their thoughts become invested in it, in the what do I do with the information I received from that virtual field trip. It's just a beautiful experience. That is the instantaneous, right? We're there in the moment. It's a fabulous, beautiful experience. But if there's more to it, then the child, your child, adolescent or preschooler or elementary age child is going to think, what can be done with it? And sometimes that, particularly when you're working at home, right? And an educator is going to foster a driving question. It might be specifically, how do we make an impact on water preservation or an extinct animal, or it could be any number of things if we're looking at the national parks, right? An educator is going to create an initial driving question that the kids then are going to explore and create, and it's going to modify and it's going to grow and it's going to change, but there's going to be academic things that the guide is looking to reach inside of there. That's not what you have to do as a parent right now. You can do the project-based learning without worrying about the academics. Instead, you're worrying about the building of self and the awareness and interest for your child on something that maybe is not in their realm of thoughts initially. So, for example, my son, he loves otters. He loves all animals. If he's watching TV or if he's on his tablet, he's looking up YouTube videos or safely, and or watching National Geographic Kids or different programs like that, and it's always centered on animals. So while we were looking at yet another one, I was driving him, pushing him to see in his thoughts, what are we going to do with this information? And the result is he loves otters. Those are his favorite animal of all of the animals out there. He can give you so much information about the otters. A year ago, he was devastated because he realized that he couldn't have a pet otter because we neither have a natural river or sea for otters to live in our backyard. And it wouldn't be fair to that poor animal to be in a crate or cage outside of its natural habitat. But what we did do is go outside and see if we can start to create with what we have. If we could, how would we? And we began using natural elements, sticks and wood and leaves and things that we found to make faux environments for them, and to experiment with them and to see what it would actually take. At one point, with all of the rains that we've been having in Michigan, he was looking and saying, well, we get a natural little lake, river in the back of our yard when the rains are too heavy. Is there a way we can create that so that it doesn't go away when the rains go away? I'm thinking, no. But it was the idea of him thinking. And for us, as he was doing the virtual field trips, if you will, on documentaries on otters, it was creating not fictional, but creating faux habitats and really getting to explore them in depth and feeling like he was part of it. And through that, he was diving deep. And that's what we're always looking for. And he was making a connection. Is he going to be more invested in otters at the end of the experience? Is he going to have satisfied the need that he had to learn them? But what we found was, by giving him more than just the visual experience of that one virtual field trip, it expanded from a 30-minute, or maybe it was 20 minutes, of a documentary into days and, dare I say, weeks of different experimentations that kept him engaged and excited and feeling useful, and creating reports, writing in his journal. It's been kind of nonstop. Now, he already had a love of otters, so that one was a little bit easy. But what happens when you go to a virtual field trip with a museum? What is it that you're looking for in that time? And that's where you could drive your child. What is it that we're looking for? Are we looking for emotions in the different art that we're seeing? Are we looking for different talent and skills? What is it we're looking for, and what are we going to do with it? How are we going to use it? And it might be something as simple as, we'd like to visit XYZ museum virtually because grandma absolutely loves this artist, and it's going to be exhibited in this virtual tour, and we thought it might be a great idea for her birthday, which is coming up next month, to be able to make a replica of one of her favorite paintings. And that gives something more beyond the actual field trip, where they can think, what does Grandma love? As they're looking at all of the art that they're seeing in that virtual field trip, how are they connecting it now to another person and not just only to their own visual sense, right? And now they're making a deeper connection and they're diving deeper into it. And then they're thinking, what can I create? And they're learning about the different mediums and how they would recreate that art. And so that, again, that 20 minutes might last a few days of creating and exploring and learning and practicing and doing. And it also has a result, and the result is not only to feed their own personal need, but it's a result that is going to provide something to somebody else. And to be able to inspire in your child not only their own curiosity, but their ability to impact others through their curiosity, but also through their problem solving and their creativity and their abilities to make and create and do, is really extraordinary. One of the PBLs that we did, that's short for project-based learning, that we did earlier in the year was, it kind of got sidetracked because we had to close school, but it was with all of the wildfires that were going on. Our students kept bringing it up in class. They were hearing it on the news, on the radio with their parents, and they were really concerned about the wildfires in Australia. And so we created a PBL on that, and the kids started discovering what animals were at risk, what natural habitats were at risk. Somebody made the comparison to the wildfires that occur in California and other areas of the United States. Were different animals at risk at that time? They studied and researched on their own different organizations that took care of wildlife, whether it was animals or whether it was habitats, and decided how they were going to help. Would they be able to raise money? They began creating artwork that had historical, if you will, references to Australia. They were creating artwork on different animals that they wanted to save. They explored different artists and styles of art in order to create paintings or drawings or sculptures that would be relevant so that they could sell and raise dollars for this. But it was one moment where we could have just watched a clip and met a visual need that said, okay, we've satisfied your need, you now know what's going on, and now you can feel secure that X, Y, and Z is going to happen and it's under control, or we can invest them in the solution. And that's what project-based learning is trying to do. So when you're at home, the biggest tool that you can use outside of the tools that I can give you of watch a virtual field trip or pull out magnetic blocks or pull out a curiosity box that has open-ended play involved in it, is the idea of creating a deeper thought so that what they're doing is expanded on a deeper level for their development and their investment in the world, as well as to feed their own curiosities and their own explorations. When you do that, something that is two-dimensional in nature or is on a platform that is not actually tangible, like videos, right, becomes something concrete that they can work on with their hands while referencing and maximizing and using virtual tools that are out there, like these virtual field trips, which again, they're really extraordinary. We use them often in our distance learning program that we do daily with our students. But it becomes, again, something tangible so that you're not tied to a screen or you're not tied to momentary enjoyment, and instead you're invested in a long-term exploration exploration, which usually results in creating some pretty big things. So it's not building with Legos for the moment, but it might be exploring all of the different ways they can use the Legos to ultimately build a moving car without instruction sheets. And why do you need that moving car? Is that car replicating one of their favorite cars? If they watched, I don't know, something on some video on cars and that was their interest, what is it you're actually promoting in them so that their connection is deeper and the work is more meaningful and enriching at the end of the day? Because at home or at school, our biggest goal and our biggest challenge is raising children to their fullest potential to make an impact on the world, right? So think about project-based learning. I urge you to look it up. There are websites and there are social media groups that can give you a few more details on how to use it beyond this conversation that we're having. Look up PBL at home, project-based learning at home, and get an idea of what those driving questions might be to further engage your children beyond the moment of the experience and into a long-term engagement that satisfies something a lot more than instant gratification. Thank you all very much for being with me today. I hope this helped. Go outside, explore, hike, build, ride your bikes, look up those virtual field trips. Think of what you can do outside of that screen or away from that screen with the information that you and your children have received. Think about also, the last tool I will give you, if you do go the way of the virtual field trips and thinking about one of those for, per week so that you can build those driving questions and foster a deeper engagement and creation of something concrete with your children. Look at it first. Take those extra few minutes, because the 10 minutes before you share it with your child or your adolescent will probably increase the amount of engagement tenfold. So that extra 10 minutes or 20 minutes of yours in seeing it beforehand might take a 20 or 30 minute experience that's virtual into days or weeks of experimentation and exploration with your children. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. We love you and we miss you. Enjoy the sunshine, at least here in Michigan. It is absolutely beautiful outside today after the last few days of rain and flooding that we've been experiencing, whether it's in my backyard or some pretty serious flooding in middle and northern Michigan. The rain currently is gone. The sunshine is bright. We're heading outside, and I hope you all do the same. Thank you again. Stay well, stay safe, and stay healthy. We miss you and we love you, and we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.